Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC, and it is filled with all sorts of enigmatic wisdom and insights for us to live a more reasonable life. And I am all about trying to live a more reasonable life. Every time I find myself judging another person or thinking about another person, and I did this yesterday, and yesterday was a fine day to do it because I was a little tired. When you're tired, or when you're under a time constraint, or when you're stressed, or when you're overwhelmed, you're not going to be the best you can be. It's just what it's going to do. And so yesterday, in the middle of the day, I ran across something a friend of mine posted, and I was like, brr, 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 saying all this kind of bullshit about, like, oh, like, she's not right. Who cares? Having a little coffee this morning. A little decaf. I try not to do the caffeinated thing, but either way. So I was thinking about that. And even yesterday when I was having the thoughts that, like, this person isn't right about what she's saying or how she's doing it and stuff. In my mind, I was like, I don't like that I'm doing this. I don't like that I'm even thinking, and even considering it. I'm even considering thinking about what another person is doing. Because I don't care, really. I don't care that she's doing it. But I think what it came down to is that, I still do want her respect. But she doesn't really have mine. And that's what so often, we don't even ask ourselves, well, even though we're trying to get someone else's respect, or we're trying to get someone else to pay attention to what we're doing so that we can get their respect. And this is really just about me. So when I do this, I don't even ask myself if they're worthy of mine and if I would give them mine. And then many times I'm just like, actually, like, I gave them my respect and then they've lost it or whatever. And when that happens, I have to recognize, well, the relationship's changed. Something changed. Something happened where it's like, but my goals for that relationship might not have changed. Might just be like, I still want them to respect me, and I want them to come to me, and I want them to know that I know something, right? I have an answer. I have a solution for them. And it's like, what the hell am I thinking about? Why do I want someone that I might not respect or whatever to give me respect, and why do I want to control that, or why do I want to think about that at all? So, whatever. That's just a thought I had from yesterday. Tomorrow, many of you may be going back to school, maybe going back to work for the first time since before Christmas, or since last week. Many of you may have gone in like Thursday. I can't imagine people went in on Wednesday. It was New Year's Day. So many of you may have gone in and faked working for a couple days. But who knows? So Kurt's going to join me, I think. Kurt, how are you doing? So sometimes people join and they don't know how this works because they're new to the platform. So what I often do is I just kind of wait until, wait for a minute, give people an opportunity to recognize that, yep, you're here. And if you don't want to be here, I'll take you off. But if you did want to kind of set your mic and other things like that, we could have a conversation. So, Kurt, you're with me if you wanted to say hello. Otherwise, I'll take you off.
Hello.
How are you, man?
Okay, I seem to be on a plateau and not able to go beyond that.
Okay. A plateau, what kind of plateau?
Like in a year and a half, I lost 40 pounds, but I don't seem to go beyond that. And I'm logging my meals every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why the momentum stopped.
Okay. Well, so have you heard this program before? Tao of the Day?
No.
No.
This is
Okay.
my first
well,
time.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. So Tao of the Day is a program, and I don't focus on weight loss, but weight loss gets, addressed and things like that, in other ways. So I talk about living a reasonable life. Like you're at a plateau, you lost 40 pounds and you're here.
Yes.
And here you are. And you want something, you want to be able to lose more weight is my guess.
Correct.
Okay. So what we do on Tao of the Day is we talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC. And it has 81 chapters. And what I do is I ask people to pick a number between 1 and 81, because, again, there's 81 short chapters of the Tao Te Ching. And then we look at the text kind of like an oracle. And we kind of like look at it and we say, okay, how can this text kind of help me get a new perspective on what I'm facing? Is that something you'd be interested in trying?
Well, I'm not really that much into anything other than just trying to lose weight.
Well, okay, that's fine. We could address this entirely from the standpoint of you wanting to lose weight. But you can say no. You can say no, and I can take you off, and all is fine. So once again, I don't talk about diet. I talk about life. I talk about how energetically, like if you're plateauing in your weight, maybe there are plateaus. There are other places in your life that you're not willing. Like, so there may be an energetic aspect of your life that you're not willing to change. So you're hanging on to something. Uh-huh. And that could be a reason that your body doesn't want to shed weight, because you are afraid to shed some energetic weight somewhere else in your life. Uh-huh. And so I talk about things from a deeper standpoint than just calories and math and all of that. I talk about it from an aspect of like, well, what else is happening? Where maybe are you not willing to leave a plateau that you've found yourself in? And the fact that you utilize the word plateau is something that we could look at, like, and things like that. So that's the place where I start from, right? I start from this aspect of like, if we're hanging on to something, well, that might be why our bodies are hanging on to this weight. Uh-huh. So, but that's not for everybody. That's why I asked if you were comfortable with moving forward with that. And if not, like, I'm absolutely fine.
Well, I guess I would have to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming up, and I have Laura in the queue, and I'm going to pull her up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, Laura, how are you doing today?
The beginning of 2025. So I'll raise a glass for a happy and healthy 2025 for you and for your previous caller. And
yeah,
I can pick a number, or if you want to.
Well, what's going on? So you'll be going back to school tomorrow? Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's your first day back?
Yes, after the Christmas break. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How has your Christmas break been wrapping up, or is there anything that's on your plate today that you have to wrap up before you go into go back to work?
Maybe just spend an hour or two planning ahead for the week. Some main ideas, main themes that I'm going to address with the students. couple of strategies, maybe one for English, one for math.
Yeah.
My class name is Strategies for Success, and I love it.
Oh, strategy. And what age group is that?
It's juniors and seniors in high school.
Oh, wow. That's a good class.
Yes, I feel so privileged. These are students with special needs who don't necessarily look much different than anybody else in the school or than their non-disabled peers. They might have a learning disability or something that prevents them from successfully accessing the general curriculum without someone to teach them strategies for success, and having a class with the extra time and extra support in a small group.
You know, it's funny. I hear the title of your class, "Strategies for Success," and I can appreciate. Pardon me. I can appreciate that your first question to me was if you can ask me about my goals, because obviously your class and things like that, and I'm glad that I responded the way I did. However, I'm really glad today to hear that the title of your class is Strategies for Success, because of course that's a part of it, and it's we as humans, as we evolve, we're currently like coming to the end of the logic kind of mind. We have taken logic really much as far as we can take it. However, it's such an important part of our evolution to be logical and to have a logical mind, and I really appreciate just learning that your class is entitled that, because it's that speaks volumes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in this county where I work now, this is the name for this class for assisting students with an IEP to be able to graduate and with a diploma. In the county where I used to work for most of my time here in North Carolina, it's called a resource class. And whatever it's called, it's the same. It serves the same purpose of offering the extra time and extra support for
I
students
think
to learn in a different way.
We could say that, like, no matter the name, like a rose by any other name would smell so sweet, right? However, it's also interesting when you say like strategies for success, or when you call something resources, right? Sometimes, when you see the word resources, you're like, oh, that's work. But when you see the word strategies for success, it's like, oh, those are answers, right? Versus resources are a bunch of books that I have to go through. Strategies for success are answers to the problem of how do I successfully navigate this, and so it does, like, it changes the mindset of how you approach something, just in changing the name sometimes.
Sure thing.
And it can change the way you think about things.
I would say so, yeah.
So let's go ahead and pick a number from there.
Let's try 78 today.
78. Oh, I love the late numbers. 78. Living in a damaged state. I don't know what the school system is like in North Carolina. Is that where you're at?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know what the school system is like and all that, but living in a damaged state really talks about the idea that things around us could be going haywire, but we don't have to be. We don't have to be affected by it. We don't have to jump to the lowest common denominator. We can really continue our work from a high level, being who we are and who we know ourselves to be. And so what that says is air and water are the softest things we know, causing no damage to those who live within them. Yet both erode the hard and rigid in their path. The soft and flexible will always overcome, while the hard and rigid eventually collapse. Ordinary men are well aware of this. However, they prefer conspicuous outcomes. Thus, they align with the hard and rigid. It stands for a time, but it does not last. Therefore, the Master teaches us that we can live among things that damage without being damaged by them. What comes to mind, especially as it relates to you as a teacher, is that if the school system wants to shift their focus, they can fire you and hire a teacher that will do what they want more readily. But if you're a good teacher and you're fired simply because you're a good teacher and you're just not in line with the current mode of the school. So if let's say there is a teacher who teaches children and uses crafts or uses things that utilize their hands. Well, I would think that if you use your body while learning, you learn better. But if a school system says, well, we're not going to utilize your teaching style anymore, but you are a great teacher and you have huge outcomes, but those outcomes come down the line. They might not actually come in your classroom. The outcomes might come as people get older and they realize and they get to integrate all that you've taught them. You're a great teacher, but you get fired from a school system because that school system, which has the most need, is publicly funded, and publicly funded school systems can't go speculating on your teaching style. But you're a good teacher and you continue to be a good teacher and you teach throughout your life. But that gets the hard and rigid was that the school system said we can only teach STEM. You're teaching crafts and that's not really what we do. And then it's like, but you're not teaching crafts. You're teaching life skills and you're teaching people how to solve problems in the real world and you're teaching people how to do all of this. And yes, the hard and rigid, school systems change the way that they teach regularly. But a teacher, they teach by connecting to the students. They teach and it's their flexibility to teach who's in front of them that makes them so great. That makes their work so effective. So as it says here, air and water are the softest things they know, causing no damage to those who live within it, yet both erode the hard and rigid in their path. It's very similar to a good teacher versus a school system. A school system is hard and rigid, or can be. And a teacher, and a good teacher, is flexible. And they see who's in front of them. And that will overcome, meaning they will teach students despite the rigidness of the school system.
Yes, I agree, and I'm working as hard as I can to teach the students the way they learn, and to not allow myself to be brought down by the rigidity of school systems, especially public school systems. And
Right. And that's what I was referencing, yeah.
I perfectly was tracking with everything you said, and I'm right there with you. And it takes a lot of bravery for me to teach the way that students learn, because many people don't understand what I'm trying to do because they are so into the rigidity. And I have to do what I think is best for my students.
That's
And
right. And it's not
it,
always
it,
going to look on the outside like you're
and you
doing
know,
what they're being asked to do.
yes, and many times I am afraid that I might get in trouble, but I still do what I feel like is best based on my logic, reasoning, inspiration, and the relationship I built from the beginning, relentlessly and consistently with my students, or at least do my part, because it takes two to tango. And most of them get to tango by the end of the semester, by the end of the school year, sooner or later. Um, there's usually one or two that I don't seem to be able to get to or get through, but I also have to. I want to give myself grace, because not every teacher can reach every child, and that's okay. I just still do my best to reach the heart and soul, or something, the mind, or create an aha moment in one of the students, whether it's sooner or later, um, or a little or a lot, but I'm aiming for that. Um,
But the results of your work as a teacher might not show up in the lives of the people within your presence. It might
so
show up. It might show up in their lives next year or the year
sure,
after. Or, they may just think back. They're being affected by what you're doing, but you don't know how. Like, they're going to, what you say and what they hear sometimes often don't have anything to do with one another. They are being inspired because you're open and you're trying to open them.
sure. I hope so. I pray so, and yes, doing my best towards that goal. And I love the talk about water and air, and um, coincidentally or not, I have fire on my picture. Is That's a picture from my fireplace last night, which we
Oh,
used.
that's beautiful. Yeah, I didn't know what that was at first.
What does it look like to an artist?
Oh, well, now that I'm looking at it, I can see that it's coals, but I only glanced at it, and so I just thought it was an abstract of, like, some sort of a quasar or universe or whatever, like, I just thought it was I thought, like, I look at it and I just see kind of a burst of life, really.
Nice. It's interesting because you were talking about, you were reading number 78,
Uh-huh.
water and air, which shape are flexible shape of.
Oh, you dropped off. So yeah, water, the way this goes, the way, how this lays out is air and water. We live in air and water. So they're really soft, and they don't damage us. Like, the air doesn't damage us, and the water doesn't damage fish and octopi and all that kind of stuff. So it causes no damage to those who live within them. But when those elements are focused, they can destroy things. And so you could go in to a school system and not be damaged by it, even though when focused intensely in certain ways, the school systems can cause damage. They definitely can cause damage, but you don't have, because it's simply a school system, just like it's simply air and water, you can be flexible, get out of the way as much as you can when it comes in to ravage things. And then you can come back in and you can live amongst it without it causing damage.
Yes, and it can cause damage. It did cause damage on me. I did get burned out, and I recovered. It took a long time to recover, and now I'm just powering on and
Good.
don't let be. I'm flexible, and
Good.
I don't allow it to damage me anymore. I'd rather quit before I do.
Yeah,
And
you could
I
get out
did,
of the way.
and I did, and
Good.
I didn't like the toxic new boss that I had at the school where I used to work, closer to the home, basically 10 minutes from my house for the past 5 years, and I felt like I deserved better, and I decided I'm not gonna accept someone who is so fast to criticize, and so slow to
Yeah.
praise.
I just want to stop you from going down and like the path of frustration with how you were treated, and like this is exactly what this verse says, and we're well aware, like just like that person is well aware that that the soft will overcome the hard. They want conspicuous outcomes. They want to feel good with what they're doing, and they're going to get praised by doing it in a certain way. Thus, they align with rigid hardness. It stands firm for a time, but it doesn't last. And you're here with softness, with flexibility. And that flexibility is allowing you to last and allowing you to continue to do what you do without getting burned out. Maybe you started getting burned out when you were trying to be more rigid, but now, hopefully, your flexibility will keep you teaching.
Yes.
Well, I'm really grateful. I have a couple people in the queue, so I'm going to go ahead and bring someone in. I'll send you this text, of course, like I normally do. And Happy New Year. I'm really glad that you're out there doing your work.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye-bye. I'm going to bring up Wandering Fool, and then Cool Beans just came in a moment ago, and I just wanted to kind of keep things rolling. So thank you guys so much. Welcome back.
Welcome. I have a...
Yeah. You have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have space for a really heavy concept this morning?
There's nothing but space. Come on.
Yeah. All right. There we go. In the past couple of days, I've been doing the New Year's reflection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found is something that is earth-shattering, horrifying, but absolute. And it's in patterning and grooming. I discovered that the lack of boundaries that I exhibited in my younger years are the reason that I'm still alive.
Well, yeah, like like you learn survival. Like that's what you learn in the first 7 years of your life is survival. And then you build that frame of reference off of that survival. And it eventually isn't useful anymore. But because it's a frame of reference of how you see the world, you see the world from that perspective. And that's the core of everything. Like you as an adult have to reimagine your frames of reference, but those frames of reference are the water in which you swim. So you have to recognize what is you and what is the frame of reference. But the frame of reference came through an instance. And yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And
yeah, and as an adult, you have to recognize all of the places that frame of reference has, well, it's not that it's done you harm, but it has been a lie. Because you, as a 4-year-old, a frame of reference for you of like, oh, I have to be a people pleaser, or I have to not set boundaries, or I have to do that. I have to do this because that's a survival skill. The thing is that the world is not your childhood household. And you are not as weak as you were, as dependent on the people around you today as you were when you were 4. Right? So by keeping that frame of reference and not re-examining, which you can't, which doesn't come naturally because you're not trained to do that after, right? Like you're by the time you move beyond survival learning, you're still living at home and you're still dependent on your parents. And so it gets cemented into your life as truth. Once that's cemented as truth, you see the world from this perspective of how do I get love? How do I stay relevant? How do I stay in the good graces of my surroundings? And you do that. Mostly people do that because with the frame of reference that they built when they were in survival as a newborn, really. I mean, like 1 to 7 usually. But yeah, that's I mean, it's a heavy concept, but that's standard practice for most people. And that's where addiction, I mean, because we have these frames of reference that kept us alive, and we think that the world is working that way, and we don't, so many of us don't like that we are so beholden to that. That's where addiction comes from. That's where escape comes from. That's where we become those good little workers that are miserable in their jobs and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's it. Like that's at the core of so much. And that's, when people talk about inner child work, they do. That is a lot of what they're pointing to, but they don't. I feel like inner child work doesn't actually get to that. What you're talking about. Inner child work, I think, is just an appeasing of the child sometimes.
Bingo.
and that's not actually helpful. That's why, I talk about experiences that you've had as a child, but not inner child work, because it's a very different thing.
It is.
But yeah. You don't want to appease that child because that child was wrong.
It's just
it needed that, but it was wrong. It was wrong as a frame of reference that you're going to carry with you. It was right. It was the correct frame of reference to have in the household you were living in, but it is not the correct frame of reference to move into the world with, because as you become an adult, you need to reference the world differently, but most of us don't. Most of us continue to hold on to a frame of reference that we had when we experienced something that, could have been traumatic in some varied way. And it's like, in order for me to stay alive, in order for me to stay a part of this family, I need to appease my parents. This is why I talk about living under the influence of your parents. That influence stays with you. And that becomes a frame of reference that you see the world through. And then now when you look out at the world, you say, I am looking to not get in trouble. I am looking to be a good person. I am looking to be, and that's how we define ourselves, even though we're not.
Right. I have a quick story I want to tell you.
Okay.
And this is something that has been etched into my brain as an adult.
Give me a number first.
Okay.
And then you tell me the story, and then I'll read it.
Let's go with 52.
Okay, go ahead. You tell me the story.
One of the things that I was reflecting on was throughout college, I was a stripper. And in these times, everyone questioned, what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? Firstly, nobody had their hand out paying for tuition. And secondly, I got retribution in cash for every time someone looked at me inappropriately without my permission. And in that, I gained a sort of power that I didn't know existed, because I worked in a club where you couldn't touch me.
Mm-hmm.
You have to honor, you have to pay me, but you cannot touch me. It was a building moment of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one thing that still makes my flesh crawl to this day. I am the kind of woman who's had the exact same face since I was 9 years old. The body has changed, the face has not. And I didn't grow past 5'2". So as I walk around these clubs, I get, you're just a baby. You're the same age as my daughter. You even look like my niece.
Mm-hmm.
And it's etched in my mind how weird humanity can be and how desire works for other people. And I just looked at that experience like it's the same as yesterday when we were talking about how from the age of 10 years old, men have been talking about wanting to marry me. And I just look like, ugh. And in boundaries, when people talk about having boundaries, there are two things that I notice of the people talking about boundaries and setting them. They either have a husband or they're white. And that's a very big thing for me, because just recently there was a young medical student who fought for her life for 17 minutes straight. Yes, boundaries are important. It's important to be in spaces where you're honored and you're listened to. But 17 minutes straight before she lost her life. Mm-hmm. There's no guarantee that I won't be in those situations again. There's no guarantee, even in the clergy, the nonprofit world, business world, that those type of wolves won't be in my presence.
It's true.
And I just look at it like, do I throw away the thing that has kept me alive this long? Or do I give in to the fact that there will always be a wolf?
Well, there's always going to be a wolf. Always. But no matter the wolf, they don't always see they don't always see their prey, right? I'm white, so, and I know what you're talking about because I have a past, but I don't have a record.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get it.
and I don't have the experience that many of my friends have. But I have some of the same past that many of those same people have. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I mean, I benefit from that. And creating boundaries, especially as a black woman in the United States, is not something everybody that you interact with. You know, black girl power and all that shit, like, there's a point.
There is.
There is a point where, like you said, like, people are going to challenge your boundary. And you are dealing with generational and racial trauma, right? You're dealing with the trauma. Like, you are carrying the trauma of the history of African Americans.
Yep.
And you are carrying the lessons that your grandmother lived.
Yep.
So, and we can go into the science of that, but you're carrying it. And so it's so important, that, like you tread softly and tread carefully. However, it is also important for you to push the boundaries of your beliefs. I think, because that is how you overcome. I mean, Martin Luther King did it. Malcolm X did it. Like so many, it's like my belief is one thing. And it's actually like the reality is it's both, right? It's like, yes, there are dangers out there, especially for you. And I totally am on board with that, because I know that I am where I am because I'm white. And I remember, like, I've had this conversation for 15 years, maybe even longer. But like, I get what you're saying. 52 says, is titled "Like Tao, So Too You." And what this verse really kind of talks about, is like what you put in the world, you will experience. And you're carrying things, like I said, generationally and racially, like in your cells and in your consciousness, you're carrying that past. And that past instilled fear into your people to such a degree. Like when I was a kid, my dad said, "I'm going to beat you until next Tuesday. I'm going to beat you, the idea that I'm going to hit you so hard you're going to wake up on Tuesday." Mm. And that is how white people treated blacks in the United States. Yeah. And how, and I don't know, anywhere else in the world. The Dutch and all of that, they were the architects of so much of that. But your structure as a being in your soul, in your cells, has this trauma within it. You're not born in the United States as a black person and without fear. It's there. It has been generational, and it is something that helps you survive. It's true. But it's also something that you're overcoming. You're overcoming it with anger. You're overcoming it with peace. The entire African-American population in the United States is working at putting this trauma down. And the fear is, I think, kind of getting transferred over to a bunch of white folks because they're losing control. And that's what they wanted for so long. And that is in their generational makeup as well. And it's not like it's right or wrong or good and bad and stuff like that on a higher level. Yes, it's right and wrong in the manifestation. Yes, it's right and wrong in this whole idea of duality. And I don't want to dismiss that at all. But that's not what it, like, you and I can't. We'll there's no way to communicate that. But I love you. And I love the fact that, that you're doing this work, because I can't do this work. One, it's not mine to do. One, I'm white, right? And right. I can't, and I can love you and be like, good luck, but that's as much as I can fucking do, because like, it's not my fight, because one of the great things is I'm only second generation here in the States. My past was Spanish, and as far as I know, like as far back as I can go, we didn't have slaves. Like we didn't, like my family didn't do anything like that. And so I actually don't have that heavy feeling. I don't have any guilt. I don't have any sort of feeling other than like love and care for you. But I don't have any generational connection with what so many white people, I'm like, I don't understand white people because I'm like, I don't understand. I know somebody whose family owned slaves, and the guilt that she has, and the stuff that she comes up with, and the stuff that she dregs up. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Where did that come from?
Like, where is that? And it's like it's coming from inside of her, and I have no. And when she's in a group of other like white folks, and they all agree, I'm always like scratching my head, going, "What are you people talking about?" Like, because it's so interesting. And then I have to remember that not like my family, my lineage, like I got here in the late, my family got here in the like mid to late 50s. So yes, there was a lot going on, but we were the immigrants. Like we were,
right?
like
you're the same boat.
Right. So we didn't, like my family, like my parents had me, and I was the second in their teens living in Chicago, in the city of Chicago. Like we grew up right next to you guys, like, right. Like, and so but again, I was white. So it took me a long time to realize, and my dad was a construction worker and stuff like that. He was union. So that helped. And there was all these sorts of things, but it's such an important thing to recognize one's privilege, and to recognize that if it's your work, do it, but you're never going to get anybody to do your work for you.
And that is the kicker. It is the work that I have had to do. And I went through like a 6-month-long dream experiment where I stopped everything outside of eating, sleeping, drinking, just completely focused. Mm-hmm. And in that, I would just write down my dreams. I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, middle of the night, but there was no distraction. So I would just wake up and start writing. And the concept of the human zoo came to mind. Mm-hmm. Because I kept asking, why is it such a big deal that I have to hide? What is this? Why can I not be famous? Why can I not live through the 10th year perfection? Why is it such a drawback for fame? And I went to sleep, and I left my journal next to me. And I woke up, turned on the light on my phone, didn't even turn on the light. It might have been a candle. I don't know what I did, but I turned on a low light and just started to write. And the concept of human zoo. Don't make a spectacle out of yourself because it puts you in danger to be eaten. And I was like, why specifically eaten? And then I thought about the cookbooks where they would cook Black people and take their hair and stuff it in the furniture. And I'm like, that's not mine. Oh, this is y'all. Okay. But it was a hard thing.
Well, see, that's the thing. It is yours. But it's not directly. You don't have, and see, this is the thing. Like, this is why I talk about triangulating trauma. When you have an experience, when you're upset, when you're scared, when you have this trigger, you plot it kind of on a map. It's all abstract, but you plot it, and then you have to like triangulate it back. And it's like, you know what? This is your generational trauma. This is your racial trauma. This is this is being carried in your body. And I'm going to read 52 now. And we're going to start to look at this from a different perspective, I think. Just to not that not that I want you to look at it from a different perspective, because your perspective is right, and your perspective is and you have your perspective so that you can grow through it, and that is contributing to the inequality in the world. That's contributing to the healing of the African American experience.
Yeah.
All things issue from Tao. It is their mother. Then, in their own time, they return to Tao. Like Tao, so too you act in the world of manifestation. When you recognize you are the mother of your experience, you can identify the children that your actions birth. Loving them as your children, you free yourself from sorrow. Choose to not recognize your motherhood, a victim filled with desire and judgment. There will be no end to your turmoil.
Oh.
Look into the darkness and learn how to yield. Not allowing your senses to guide you, you will find peace in every crevice.
Now that one is especially poignant because it's like I look at these experiences and I may say that they're not mine, but
right.
It's like it's not directly linked to me. This may have been 100 years ago, and I understand it. I see where you're coming from, but I continue to move forward. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite jokes, and it started off as a joke, and it ended up being really true to me. I am the culmination of my ancestors' wildest dream. I am a woman that can own a bank account, walk around freely, and have children out of wedlock without being forced to breed. And I was like, wait a minute, that's actually true. Hold up, wait. Mm-hmm. That's actually true. All of these are facts. I am indeed the wildest dream. Because it used to be I was in a state where it was like, y'all got to be joking. Y'all sent me this one. You sent me to fix this shit. Mm-hmm. Y'all should have gave this power to somebody else. Because you sent the wrong one. And then I started to realize that it was true. And I was like, well, shit, I am the right one. Okay. So where do we start? And that's where the dream experiment started, where I was just sitting in darkness and calm and asking a question before I went to bed. And I was like, I'm asking every cell in my body, you better tell me something.
That's right. And that's the thing. Your body, it's holding on to all that. And when we read this, right, it says all things issue from Tao. All things, even slavery, issued from Tao. Yeah. It is their mother. Then in their own time, they return to Tao. See, even though slavery is not around in the United States in the way that it used to be, it is, but we can see in the healing that's happening in the world, even though it's slow. This is why there's another verse that's like, men are impatient, but Tao is patient. And it's always balancing things. So even though we're living in a time in which things seem extremely unbalanced, I can see in your words and your thoughts that it's working. It's working. It is balancing out. It's a low hum, and I'm attuned to the subtle. But then, like Tao, so too you act in the world of manifestation. When you recognize you are the mother of your experience. Now, that doesn't mean that you set everything off. Within you is the mother of all of your experiences. And that means that your ancestors are within you. And that you are holding on to thoughts and ideas that maybe you're not even aware of until you meditate, until you look at your dreams, until you do all of these other things, that these experiences are issuing from you.
Yeah.
You can identify the children your actions birth.
Yep.
When you recognize you're the mother of your experience, you can identify the children that your actions birth. What are some of the children that your actions birth? Fear. What are some of the children that your actions birth? Anger. What are some of the children that your actions birth? Boundaries that are loose.
Yep.
When you can love those children, you free yourself from sorrow. When you can love your anger, when you can love your fear, because that protected you. Now, like a child, you can love it, but you can also let it go live on its own. You don't have to hold on to it. You don't have to give it a house in your life forever, because it can mature and return to Tao. Choose not to recognize your motherhood. This is where it gets, when you become a victim, filled with desire and judgment for the world around you. There will be no end to your turmoil, because you've been wronged. But this is you.
You want to know something funny?
Okay. Yes. I don't know what can be funny off of this, but yes, I want to know.
I have a sick sense of humor. That's another thing.
Okay.
That's a child of the influence and the child of Tao itself. I have a sick sense of humor.
Okay.
But in my anger, I spent 12 years in fine art school from kindergarten to 12th grade. And in my
Lucky
anger,
you. What the fuck?
yes, it
That's
was
some white shit right there. What are you talking about?
I was a magnet student program, and to keep your spot, you had to continue to create art and music and whatever
Good for
you were
you.
into.
Yeah.
I came from one of the bloodiest neighborhoods in the area, but I was allowed the privilege and opportunity to go and study art. And we studied along regular subjects. We studied along with math, all the other stuff. But one of the things that I have found that has been the most helpful thing for me is transferring my medium. When I am truly and fully angry, and it's a difference between a bloody rage and a fiery rage. Bloody rage, I paint. Fiery rage, I use charcoal.
Oh, yeah. Charcoal's great.
Yes, the aftermath of the fire. I will put it onto paper, and sometimes I burn them just to give it somewhere else to go. And the children, I'm like, okay, I will set you free. And sometimes I say, I send you back from whence you came. You can stay wherever you're at, but you cannot live with me.
And you need to exercise, and that's literally exercising like that stuff, like you're exercising those demons. And I think art, and that's why when I was talking to Laura, I was talking about using your hands and all of that kind of stuff within your students and stuff. And you never know what that's going to yield, but you just use
Laura, keep going. I'm the product of 12 years of it. Keep going.
Absolutely. And this one ends up looking into the darkness and learn how to yield. Don't allow your senses to guide you, and you will find peace in every crevice. And your senses are those fears. Your senses are those things that are keep holding on. That's what they're sensing. But there's something beyond that. There's peace beyond that. But the fear and the anger and the experiences that you've had are keeping you from being everything that you are.
Indeed. Yielding to the darkness. I love you too.
I want to just give you a big hug. It's so beautiful to have all of you with me through this, and to know that we're all supporting each other.
Oh.
Hey, Spring Blossom, how are you?
Oh, I didn't mean to come on, but I'm here now.
Oh, you didn't mean to come on. you were in the queue for a bit. I'm glad you're here.
I did touch the thing, but I didn't think that I'd gone on, so I hadn't been prepared to come up.
Oh, well, I do that like ninja.
Yeah, that was beautiful with the wandering through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
there's,
it just needs a little time to settle.
yeah.
And we'll give that space some. We'll honor that space right now.
Yeah, true. Yeah, working class women do experience something along that line around the masculine abuse or conditioning that, it's it can't be compared, but there is some elements of class structure that can be quite abusive to women.
Are those frogs?
They are. I'm outside underneath a net and looking up at the stars.
That's nice.
And there's frogs around me. They're very loud.
They are. That's beautiful.
It is.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very nice. So, where do you find yourself right now? I mean, obviously in a tent under the stars, but I know you were in that co-op, or you're hanging out with a bunch of people. Now, are you still in the desert?
Yeah, I'm still at the same household.
Oh, okay.
If you look up Menindee in New South Wales, Australia, you can see how far away it is from most of the rest of the country. It's a tiny town. 550 people. And I'm next to a river, and the river's turning green. And that's sort of a worry.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's yeah, great. That's odd. Is it because of like kelp growth or something like that? Like underneath?
It's because these industries, cotton growing industries, take more water than they should, and they allow the algae to grow up on the surface and suffocate the fish.
Yeah. And then when that gets a hold, that changes ecosystems, man.
Yeah, lots of in different species are affected.
Oh yeah.
And yeah.
And then it just exacerbates the problem. You know, when like some species are going to expand, and that's going to be worse, and some people are going to contract, and that's going to be worse, and then it's out of balance until something occurs that balance is restored as, a dry heap of rock. I go, uh-oh. Like, that's the thing.
Oh, you don't Martin, John. We're in crisis state
yes,
in the world because of the, because of the corporations that have no way of holding themselves back, because they're just following directions, and that's the problem in the world.
And no one person is accountable. So here we go. And that's why it's so important.
We're all doing it too. I mean, let's not, diminish our own involvement in the whole consumerism.
I mean, look, you and I are talking around the world with these devices that we've mined for, and children have died to make these devices that we're holding, and that's right. And we have to recognize that. Absolutely. And I've said it before, like I'm at peace with my actions, and I do, I do contribute where I can, and I follow my heart, and I'm not gonna, I'm not going to lie to myself and tell me that I'm a good person, and but I'm okay with my actions. I know that people are dying for my lifestyle. I get that.
Yeah. Well, when I arrived in London many long years ago, I had driven a working class woman in a flying machine, arrives in London, buys a chariot, and travels across the landscape of my ancestors halfway around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I was with another friend, and I said, "Oh, we've got to stop here because we're going to Ludlow because it's in the book I'm reading." So we pull into Ludlow, and there's a big castle there built in the 14th century. And we pull up behind it because it's sunset and it's closed and we can't go in as tourists. So we walk around the back, the bottom part of the castle. And the trees are way up high and the wall of the castle is higher. And I'm in shock, it's such a long time ago they built this amazing structure. And I start to imagine who would be working in that structure. I think about the tailor and the baker and all the women making things and sewing and, ladies in waiting, chieftains and soldiers. And then I think of the people out on the fields building all these gardens and bringing all the food into the castle. And I think of myself in comparison to those people being my ancestors and the way in which they lived then. That has brought me to the place where I can fly in a flying machine across half the world and land in London and buy a chariot all by myself and travel.
That's right. Yeah. Come a long way, baby.
And I gratefully thank them for the experience. And then I'm also feeling the price was too great when when you balance it up because of all the, the damage that they've done to people in order to get to where we are.
Yeah.
So, and taking that on as an identity, understanding where each of us have come from, going back long enough to find the commonality of the European oppression, cultural violations that they did all over those areas of the world, and other places in the world were not having the same experiences. So it's colonization is what has been imposed upon us, as you were calling it, I think, last night, when you were talking about a child being influenced by their parents, or what was it you were saying?
Well, I was just talking about the idea that, I don't recall what I was talking about really. But I know I talk about colonization a lot. I've interviewed people around it and I've addressed it. And I know that, some of my thoughts today are people, we're colonizing the mind instead of land.
That's right. It's the same structure. That's why. And this is why we have to step out of that place where we have limited who we really are and come into a place of expansion in loving ourselves to the point of not being affected by anything external to ourselves unless we choose to be.
Right. Well, as time's kind of waning, do you have a number?
Oh, okay. What number's coming up? 66 came up, so I may as well call 66.
66. All right, 66 it is. Leading from behind. There are great benefits to humility. All rivers flow to the sea because its position is lower. The master emulates this by always being a servant, inspiring from below, leading from behind. No one is oppressed. They find their own way. Like rivers, so too will people flow to the master. Never feeling oppressed or as if they are in danger. The whole world supports her and keeps her in their heart. Without a reason or desire to compete, she is never met with competition.
Yeah.
Being absolutely being in that space of being a servant. And like in the Tao, it also says, you make your life, you live your life as a donation.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, like that was, that idea was embedded in my conversation with Wandering Fool too. That idea of like being a servant and finding your strength within that, like not, and there's a big difference between being a servant and being a slave, and I understand that, and so many people today are slaves to money, to their job, to their relationships, to their identity.
Yeah.
And they're a servant to no one.
Right.
And they're a slave to the corporations. And that's why when I mentioned, we don't have slavery in the way that it was. We have a whole new sort of like insidious slavery thing going on where people are enslaved by
mortgages,
by desire, really. Like they're wanting their house, wanting to be seen a certain way, wanting to achieve certain things. Yeah. And they're well within their right to do that.
Indeed. Yep.
And we will, and we sit here as servants and guiding the way. And it's like when they are ready, they will join the path. But until they are ready, we will continue to love them and wish them well.
Indeed. And that's the bottom line, is that's what the only thing can help move our mankind. I mean, be kind. Be kind to them.
Be kind.
And
Yes.
let them be who they are, and don't judge them, and empower them with knowing that they're safe around you, because you're not judging them. You're not wanting them to be anything than what they are.
Yeah. And, like this idea of like the master emulates being being the sea that the rivers flow to, emulates this by inspiring from below, leading from behind. No one is oppressed. They find their own way. We don't tell them how to do it. We allow them to find it on their own. And we trust that they will, because that is our nature.
It's in our nature.
That's right. And we trust that it's in their nature as well.
That's it. Absolutely.
Because we are all connected. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. You and the frogs have such a beautiful night tonight. I'm so glad that you have stars and frogs, and I remember there were times when I had crickets in the morning. And it's winter here now, so they're not there, but it's wonderful when your neighbors kind of have little conversations.
Yeah, thanks. Yep. I'm enjoying it. This is my first night out. Sorry, this is my first night out. I've been in the house before, and now tonight they put the tent up for me, which is, I can see the sky through it, and it's just a little tent, but no mosquitoes. That's the main thing.
Those can be. That's impossible. All right, sweetheart. You have a wonderful evening, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you, darling.
Mm-hmm. Bye. I'm going to bring Cool Beans up. He sent me a message about wolves for the week. I wasn't sure what that meant. Hey, Cool Beans, what's going on?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. You finished at the gym? Are you heading there now? What's going on?
I am recovering from norovirus.
Norovirus? What is this now? Is this a new thing?
No, it's like a 24-hour flu thing where it hits you at both ends. And
oh, buddy.
My daughter.
You're busy.
I was busy.
Okay.
My daughter had come out to visit, and next thing you know, who knows, you never know where these things are picked up. And, but the one kid got it, the next kid got it, she got it, the husband, it just walked through everybody that was around everybody. And,
Okay.
so I'm on a very good side of the healing things here.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, the Wolves piece came in on Wondering Fool's comment
Yeah.
about, being defensive and, in that I can't really remember the way that she'd put it, but that there's always wolves out there.
Oh, yeah.
And she's talking about her strengths. And it's like when strong people aren't preyed upon,
Right.
wolves prey on the weak. So,
oh, yeah.
and, there's always somebody trying to find your weakness out there. So, and she sounds so powerful.
Oh, yeah. No,
So.
and that's it. That's the thing. So many times when you can see the power in someone else, but they can't.
Exactly.
And it's like, and the power that they see isn't that deep power that you see. Maybe it's just the power of resilience or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's not it. Like you are, and speaking, just about Wandering Fool, she's got a power in her core that, that has nothing to do with anger, has nothing to do with fear, has nothing to do with resilience, has nothing. And it's just who she is, and the thing is, and you can see it in, and so often, and I know I've seen strength in people before. And when I tell them they're strong, they think they're strong in the way that they identify as strong. And I'm like, no, that's not it. That's that's your weakness, actually. Your strength is but beyond that. But your, your identity is what's keeping you from really, really getting to the core of your strength.
Yeah.
And it's because it's what we carry. It's what we carry.
Yeah.
Go on.
And everybody had a piece this morning, of question. And to the gentleman who lost 40 pounds and says he's on a plateau, if he's still on, man, enjoy that plateau. You lost 40 pounds, dude. That's a lot. Yeah. That takes a lot of energy. And to be there and enjoy that space when you're ready to take the next step to make that next push, you will.
Right, absolutely.
But be where you are.
And that's where I was trying to go. But and that's the thing. I always want to invite people. I always want to invite people. And sometimes when you talk to someone, you can energetically feel like this might not be what they want. And so I asked if it would be okay to move in that direction. And I wanted to make sure that he knew that he can say no, because not everybody is ready. Because if you do something and you're not ready to do it, you're going to reject it without asking if it's something that, but it's, and I remember my first conversation with Laura, which, she, when she came on and she, wanted me to answer, what are my goals? And I said, no, I'm not going to answer that. Right. And it took her, she went off, did her thing, came back however many weeks later and understood. And it's and that's so brilliant. That you're going to go away and I trust that you're going to find your path and in your time, in your way. And I really enjoyed interacting with him this morning.
And by the way, well done. And with Laura this morning talking about her way of teaching, and I really don't know her story, but she's teaching more physically. And we are not designed to be locked up in classrooms. So when you can add movement, learning is a muscle memory, and what a beautiful thing to do. And when it is overstructured, I agree with her 100%. Hey, if they're going to overstructure your teaching, then you may not be teaching at the right place.
Right.
Good, beautiful thing for her to be in, and, very powerful. And, she gets to see it and feel it. I love it. And listening to the frogs this morning. Oh my God. How cool is that?
It's been such a good morning.
Wandering Fool, if you heard that and you're an artist, can you paint that from your imagination? Because I'm doing it here. Like, I'm trying to picture Australian desert, frogs, tent, stars. Oh my goodness, what a
Right.
beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Like it's definitely a landscape.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just absolutely wonderful. And on the other side of things, God, it feels good to wake up and move my body.
Yeah.
It just does. Today we started off at number one, and I reflected that a whole lot with that the other day, and that was really, really good. And I've gone back to it multiple times. And then today, I'm thinking I woke up with 72 in mind.
72. Okay. Off we go. 72 is titled With Nothing to Teach.
Ooh.
I like this one for a lot of reasons. One is like when when you first learn some shit, and especially in our world today, like the idea is, oh, this is brilliant. I'm going to go tell everybody about it. But it's like eventually you realize that everything is brilliant and there's nothing to teach. And sometimes going out to teach just gets you lost on another path.
Mm-hmm.
So this reads, the knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained. Losing themselves in that process, they turn to more knowledgeable authorities. Do not make light of what is important to people, and they will respect you. Therefore, the master, although she knows herself, she is not arrogant. She loves herself as she is, but she also loves others as they are. She has nothing to teach, and the knowledgeable have nothing to learn.
Wow.
This is interesting because the knowledgeable, we have moved our entire society to a point where everybody is knowledgeable. Everybody in the United States, at least, is knowledgeable. We all have had access to information for generations, really. And for the last 20, 30 years, we've had access to information at our fingertips. And so we are the knowledgeable, and we've lost our sense of awe. The moment something happens to our bodies, in our minds, in our lives, outside, the first thing we do is Google it.
Mm-hmm.
So having lost our sense of awe, we seek to be entertained by having the answer. Losing themselves in that process, they turn to the more knowledgeable authorities. Now, as we do that, what's more knowledgeable authorities, right? You like the Joe Rogans, and you got the other people that do
Neil deGrasse Tyson,
right? Like we just keep going to the more knowledgeable authorities so that we can continue to feed this entertained lifestyle of being knowledgeable. Now, the next line is, do not make light of what is important to people, and they will respect you.
That's the line that stuck out to me.
I love that line, and it seems, and that's why I talk about this as a riddle. I talk about all these things as riddles that you have to just sort of like piece apart over time. Do not make light of what is important to people, and they will respect you. Do not make light that people want to learn about all of this stuff. Do not make light of the fact that they want to figure out how to, make $1 million. Do not make light of why they want to figure out who's right, who's wrong, what's up, what's down. Like if they want to define everything, do not make it doesn't matter what they want. Just love them.
Mm.
And
yeah.
Whether or not they're lost in their need to be knowledgeable, to be right, that's okay. It's like, and I think about that too. Like when I interact with friends of mine who are like, I'm right. This is a new thing. This is, and you don't, even if you have kind of gone through this experience of like, actually, like you're what you believe and what you're saying, there's a disconnect and you don't see that disconnect. It's okay. You can just be like, you'll see it eventually. This idea of like letting people grow. And I think that that's a big theme today, this idea of allowing people to do what they do.
Yeah, looking for who they are.
Right. And this last section, therefore, because you don't make light of what other people are doing and they respect you, therefore the master, although she knows herself, she is not arrogant. You know who you are. And you allow them to be who they are. When we talk about living reasonably, that's like, oh, I want freedom to be who I am. Well, you better give someone else freedom to be who they are.
Yeah.
She loves herself as she is, but she also loves others as they are. She has nothing to teach. I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong or that you're on the right path or wrong path. I'm not trying to pat you on the back for being who you are. I
also
love you.
try not to make you think my way.
Right.
You know?
And this is why the knowledgeable have nothing to learn. The knowledgeable will find their way back to Tao because that's the only path. And they're going to do it in their way, on their time. It might not be in this lifetime, might not be in 12 lifetimes, but it doesn't matter because I love them, regardless of what knowledge they're telling other people, what they're trying to get people to believe, what they're trying to, like, they don't see the awe and the magic of their own lives, and so they want to put it they want to instill it into the lives of others. That's all fine. Mm-hmm. You're well within your right to do that. I realize I have nothing to teach.
Isn't there a real beauty in being able to see the awe that people find in their own lives?
When you see people, like, that's why it's so awesome to be around children, because they give everything, you know, like, I was talking to one person who was just like, my son told me that magic didn't exist. And I was like, oh, no, you know, and then it was like, and then all of a sudden, like, they had an experience and they're like, wow, it's the magic door. And then all of a sudden they're, you know, and it's because, you know, like, people around them, you know, magic isn't real. And then you're like, oh, well, now I'm self-conscious about believing in magic. And then all of a sudden you find the awe, and then you find magic in your life again.
Yeah. I had my grandson for an afternoon the other day, and he is going on 2, and he's a beautiful little soul. And, you know, and I deal with kids differently from everybody else. I have no electronic babysitter. I have no television. And it's like, let's just go be outside. And, you know, and got the cornhole, you know, I got a cornhole thing that I had made. Yeah. And you were just laying out there. And at one point he stops and he rolls over on it. And the sun's really bright in his eyes, and he's throwing his arms up to cover his closed eyes. And he's basking in the sun. Yeah. And like, you can see him rolling his body around, just absorbing all of that. And it was so, and you know, there he is. He just sits off on his own over there. And I'm on these stones that I ride my bicycle over in the yard. And he comes over, you know, and he plays on the stones. And he finds one large rock that's got to be 400 pounds, but it's teetering. And he starts touching the teeter with his hand ever so gently. And the rock starts teetering more and more. And you see the brain moving. You just watch him figuring this out. Next thing you know, he's on top and he's trying to surf it. He's trying to balance the stone with him standing on it. Oh my God, how magnificent to watch those bits and pieces of all of that.
You have nothing to teach.
No, just watching that. Yeah.
And then he just learns, right? Like, that's the thing. He doesn't have to go out of his way to learn anything. Learning just happens. And you learn through the awe of living.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
It's a wonderful thing. And that's a cool place to be, is to just watch children, you know, be there for them.
Just watch, just observe. Doesn't have to just be children. Just observe. Thank you so much, Cool Beans. I do have Stephanie in a line, and it's been a while since I've talked with Stephanie. So Happy New Year, girl, and I'm excited to have you up. Or did she go away? Oh, she went away. Oh, poopy. Stephanie, if you are still there, come up and say hi. It's been a while. I love that. But either way, thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm gonna sign off slowly just in case Stephanie does come back, and she did. You don't have to do what I ask. It was just nice to see you come up.
Hi. No.
Hey.
Request denied, and I know Daryl has been talking about sometimes that's an issue.
Oh, okay.
The red X yesterday.
Computer says no.
Yes, it has been a while. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you? Happy New Year.
Good. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
You know, the last time I talked to you, I think it was in the summertime.
It could be. It's been a while. I
Yeah.
think about you. I'm like, where'd she go? And she didn't.
I know. You know
we
what?
had so many good conversations.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm on here a lot when I'm not doing well. And when I'm doing well, I'm doing other things and I'm not on here a lot.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
You know what I mean?
Like I don't mind. I'm just like, I'm glad you're doing well. So what's happening? What's going on in your life?
Oh, same old. Just
So are you not doing well today? Is that what you just hinted at? like do you need
oh
a,
no,
you need
like
a mental
I'm just
health day?
I don't know, not much new going on.
Okay.
No, I didn't sleep very well, so I'm kind of like my neck hurts.
Oh, okay.
But
So
that's
we're
okay.
at the end of the rough nights. So time should start to settle back in after tomorrow. So
Yes.
time has been. I don't know if time. I do know time has been funky for you because it has to have been. Just because it's the rough nights. So your dreams have been a little more vivid. Your time has been weird. Either it's been standing still or moving quickly or not moving at all. That's
well,
the rough
it's my
nights.
own doing because I've been falling
You can
asleep.
say that.
I've been falling asleep to watching Hallmark movies on YouTube, and then so
You and my
I
mom
know-
would get along so well.
I thought I was over them. I watched a lot this Christmas, but and I know. Turn off your phone before you go to bed.
No. It's not about that. Like, look, you don't. Yes, those are logical rules that we can live by. However, we are governed by other things. We're governed by, things like rough nights, Rauhnacht, right? This is a time from Christmas Eve until the 6th, that the time literally stands still because in our history, we at one time, I don't know if you heard me talk about this before, but, we at one time, had a calendar that was ruled by the moon. And then we switched it to a calendar that was ruled by the sun. Well, there's 12 extra days in a solar calendar than there is in a lunar calendar. So because of that, this time is a time in which time is questionable.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So a lot of people are having problems sleeping?
Everybody. Well, it's not that they have problems sleeping. Like this is, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, like this is a Germanic folklore that talks about the wild hunt. And it's called Rauhnacht. This is the time. And in this time, there is no time. So time is funky. Dreams are vivid. The veil between the spirit world and the physical world is very thin. So you may have had moments in which your intuition has been just spot on. All of that. It's a magical time. It's a wonderful time if you utilize it. When you utilize it and you surrender to it, like you're watching your programs and all that kind of stuff. Like that's a good use of it. Like, I mean, you could use that time to meditate, but you have to overcome, the desire to do this kind of, because time is so weird.
Yeah.
Sleep is, it's like, I haven't been sleeping very well. Like some nights it takes me a while to fall asleep, and some nights I'll only sleep 2 or 3 hours, and some nights I'll, then it'll catch up to me at some point and it'll balance out. But yeah, it's a funky time. So it's not just you.
Does it have anything to do with the people who deal with astronomy? No, astrology. Wait,
Astrology.
which one?
So
And they
yeah,
talk
so
about
astrology,
Mercury retrograde and stuff like that. Is it sort of like that?
It's sort of like that because it does deal with the planets, but the planet that it deals with is the Earth. And astrology usually looks at how your experience on Earth is affected in the stars. Well, the stars are out there, in relation to us anyway. And so Raunacht is an experience on the planet because of the planet and what we have, how we have dealt with dealing with time. Right. It's just time is a construct, right? And we have built it and we have tried to understand it. And through our lineage, like this is just a time where that happens, right? Where time, where if you were to attach to the subtle, if you were to really kind of feel and observe. See, what you're observing is judgment. You're like, oh, I'm watching all of this. I should have been over this. I don't do this. I don't like that I'm doing this. All of that kind of stuff. And so that's getting in the way of you kind of being present with what is happening.
Yeah. Well, because I do know I have worse sleeps when I do that.
Yeah.
And I wake up to the movie being on. I'm like, oh, and then
sleep timers, come on.
And then, of course, you read anything and they say 45 minutes before you go to bed, turn off. And I get that.
But yeah.
And I know that. Like, I know that I don't sleep well when I do that. So I'm like, well, I shouldn't. But I know there's not.
You're shitting on yourself.
I know.
This is Stephanie.
I know.
Just reach out. No. So, but it goes back further than that, right? So you're having, this is the problem with like when I talk about addiction and other things like that. One of the issues is like you, on one hand, you're an addict, right? And that's the problem. Mm. The problem is that you became an addict because of a problem, but that problem wasn't addressed except with your addiction. But that problem didn't, and so you have to keep going back. What you're looking at is the result and the pacifier. But the thing that's stirring up the unease is the rough nights. Is this astrological? Is this time of year? It's moving into hibernation. It is the lack of motivation. It is it is just this time. There's something that you're attached to. It's like, I'm sad, but I don't have a reason to be sad. Well, are you going to judge the fact that you're sad, or are you just going to be sad because you happen to be sad? Is it okay for you to be sad, or is it not okay for you to be sad because you don't have a reason? And and for many people, if they don't have a reason, it makes no sense. They judge themselves for it because then they're like, I must be depressed. I'm going to take meds. Now you're kicking the can further down the road, and you're not dealing with you start dealing with the symptom, not observing where it's coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. It's as soon as like fall, winter starts, I just get very like more tired. I just hunker down. I'm like,
that's why it's called the rough nights. That's like that's what I'm saying. Like it's not just you.
Right.
Yeah. And this is a folklore that comes from like hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. Right? And so like there were people have seen things and there are things that you can do like, journal and light candles and like meditate on the transition, and it's not active because you're not going to have as much energy. You're not going, it's interesting. Last year is the first year that I really started like looking at the rough nights, and I didn't do a lot with it or anything, but I noticed in hindsight that on the 6th, when the rough nights officially end, I decided that I was, and I didn't have any thought about this at all. I decided to write my Tao, or I decided to print my Tao. the way that happened was I just observed myself looking at digital printers. I was like, oh, why am I looking at a digital printer? And then I just decided, I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to print my Tao. And that was literally on the 6th, the last day of the rough nights. But before that, I was like languishing in this kind of place of like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. What's going to happen this year? What am I doing? How am I living? Like all of that stuff was going on. Someone told me about the rough nights during that, and I was like, oh, interesting. And so I let myself just kind of be a little off, because I didn't have any motivation to stop doing things that I didn't like that I was doing. Just like you might not have a lot of motivation to stop watching the programs. But my guess is you're going to start finding the motivation after tonight. And it's going to start just coming back into your awareness.
Well, and that's what usually happens. I start watching all the Christmas movies and doing like November. And then after New Year's, I'm like, I'm done. Like I have no desire for it anymore. But I've always been that person. Well, over the past few years, I've been like, I accept that winter and fall is hard. But it was always the world got busier. And so, cause then it was school pageants and church and work things. And I used to go, why are we busier this time? Isn't this a time when we're supposed to slow down?
Absolutely.
And so I slow down. Like I don't go to that much anymore because I don't want to. Because I'm like, no, why?
there are times in our lives where this happens developmentally and stuff, like Saturn's return. If you've ever heard me talk about that, that's a period of years, that could be 5-6 years long. Of what you can experience as turmoil. You don't have to experience that way, but it can be experienced that way, especially if you're not open to adjusting for it. But when you experience those things, you ebb and flow. It's like, okay, this is a rough time in my life, but I'm going to get out of it. This idea that you're doing what you need to do right now. Just like you're saying, like, I need to be still. No matter what society and my community is telling me I need to do more, I can't do more. So I'm just going to sit down and watch Christmas in Montana. Right? Like, it's like, good. This is I got all the stuff that I need. I got snacks, and I got Christmas in Montana, and I got a candle, and I got nice heat, and I'm going to cuddle up with a good blanket, and I'm going to enjoy this moment. And the thing is our society is telling you that maybe that you're not productive, and that you're not doing well, but it's like, you're doing just fine.
Yeah.
Now, if you start judging yourself, that's when things start getting in the way of you being perfect, because you start adjusting. Like, right, you start defining perfect as something that you're not, but you are. You are. You are.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It's okay when it's just me, but you're like when it is other voices that start asking you, like, what are you doing? And blah, blah, blah. That's when it can start to railroad you a little bit, because you're like, oh my God, the world out there says I need to be doing this. And I listen to it less, but it's still a hard thing not to,
No, I understand. And that's a slow thing that you have to practice, because you spent, my assumption is, because of your upbringing, you spent a lot of time being a good girl.
Yes.
Right? You're right.
A good girl, but never good enough.
Right.
You're
right.
Not perfect.
and so watching Hallmark movies is going to be a little bit like in that wheelhouse of not good enough. Like, and I know I can do better, so that's even worse. Mm-hmm. Because I have done better. But it's like, yeah, but you can't right now.
Yeah.
And
this is the whole, like, you're going to do it until you don't shit. Like,
right.
you know.
And I love winter, fall. And I used to get so upset though that I would get so tired. But now I'm like, no, because it's a time to slow down. You know, it's fine. It's great. But yeah, it can get.
Yeah, sometimes you just dropped off. Come back up. You can get in your head sometimes. And so this is when I'm going to ask you for a number. We're gonna explore that.
Okay. 11.
Oh.
Good.
What was that?
11?
11. Oh, 11. 11. Emptiness is valuable, my dear.
Ooh.
Emptiness is valuable. Spokes, tire, rim, and hub all make a wheel. Yet it is the space where the axle goes that makes it worthwhile. Clay is formed into a vessel. A vessel's function is to hold things. Thus, its form includes emptiness. A house can be built, but if it were solid, it would be useless. It is easy to see structure, but structure is there to expose the value of emptiness. All that you want to do, all that structure that you want to put into your life, all the things that you do, the church and the pageants and the podcasts and the dinners and the cookies and the things. All of that is just there to expose the value of that which you are.
Oh, I love that.
Your life is why you're here. And your life doesn't have any outcome or byproduct. Your actions that inspire you. All of those things are because of who you are. Now, no one can see or know you as you truly are. You know, that's just like you can't see the space of the room you're in. Because if you were to remove the walls, the room would be gone, but the space would still be there. And so if you remove your actions, the obviousness of you is gone, but you're still there. And that conspicuous nature that you go to church and people can see your body and people can hear your voice and that's not gone. It's just not so conspicuous. So you sitting on your couch, having snacks and watching shows. That's what's so valuable. That's the thing that making the cookies and going to the church, like, that's what that's all about. That's you without the identity and without the burden of all of that. And that's like it says in the beginning, spokes, tire, rim, all of these things that you do make up who you are. And yet there's something else that makes it worthwhile. And that's who you are. The podcasts, the fucking church, the cookies, all of that, none of that could be there without you, without the emptiness of you, without you emptying yourself to a degree that you can fill yourself with that structure, with that stuff.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around this one. I think it's like I understand more concepts sometimes than the actual words, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
But yeah. So how I see that, is it similar to when somebody goes, "Who are you?" and you spout off what you do and your accomplishments, but that's not the essence of who you are. Like, that's where we can get stuck, right? Is that
Right.
sort of
So
similar to this? Like the
yeah. So there's this masculine, feminine energy sort of thing. So masculine energy is so we look at structure and substance, right? So structure is the walls of your room.
Mm-hmm.
Substance is the space in which you live in that room, right? Like you can put the walls up, but what that is doing is exposing the space that was always there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like the
If
room.
if I remove the walls, the space that was in that within those walls is still there, but you're no longer in a room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not contained.
Okay. Right. It's not contained. When you look at emptiness, right, when you look at the emptiness of your life, you as an individual are not really contained. You are not Stephanie. That's a name that contains you. And the things that you do contain you. And the way you present yourself to others and your upbringing and all of that, can it hold you in a container? But that container, that's the structure. And the structure is there to expose the value of all that you are.
Yeah.
And part of that which you are watches movies and leaves their TV on. And that's okay.
And when we focus on that, that's where we can limit ourselves and we start judging things a lot quicker.
Right.
Because we don't know the full. We're like, well, you're that, and I'm putting this label on you. Mm-hmm. But we're so much more than the things that we do,
can
that
see,
we are.
That you can see.
That you can see, yes.
Right, because spokes, tire, rim, and hub all make a wheel, right?
That's why it's hard to sometimes express ourselves, or we feel misunderstood, or we misunderstand others because of all what we're just seeing. Right. And we're not seeing, and like you were saying, nobody really knows what's going on within you. They just see certain aspects of you.
Right. And you're focused on certain aspects of you as well, because those things get you attention. Those things get you the things that you can see.
Yeah.
But the thing is the only way, and like I keep going back to this wheel, right? Spokes, tires, rim, and hub. Here are all these things that all make, and we can look at church, community, pageants, and, whatever, all make your life, yet it is the space within you in which, we use a like generic sort of term, like God exists, that makes it all worthwhile. So it is your soul that makes all that worthwhile, because without your being able to be inspired by your soul, the spokes, tire, rim, and hub would just be a circle. It'd just be like it wouldn't be useful. It's the hub in the middle that makes it worthwhile. That's what makes it go. It is the space. It is the space that has nothing there. It is the nothingness. It is the connection to the God in this sense, right? Like your connection to God that makes all of this worthwhile.
So that all connects as well to the things that you feel like doing versus the things that you feel like others want you to do. Like if I don't go to a lot of, like I don't go to church anymore. And so I don't have to go to those things. Right. But like if I'm invited somewhere and I'm like, yeah, I want to do that, then I go. If I don't, then I don't go.
Right.
Because I'm feeling like I don't want to go just because I feel the societal expectations. And now I go just because, I want to.
Right.
And I used to do like everything because of societal expectations. Mm-hmm. And then I'd get really I'd get really tired and, kind of grumpy because I was doing the things but not wanting to.
Right.
And now I just go and do when I want it to. Like, you know what I mean? If I feel like led to go, then I do.
Your actions, what you're inspired to do. Now, you did what you did not want to do. That was part of it too. Because that was the identity that you saw yourself as. But doing that led you here, led you to the emptiness, led you back to yourself.
So like when you're feeling the uncomfortableness of what you're doing and it's starting to affect you, that's when you realize, like,
you could, yeah,
there's something that I could change about this.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
This is why I talk about things from, well, you don't like that you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
When you can, and that's just being aware. So the more aware you are of the things that you do that you like that you do, and the things that you don't like that you do, right? I don't like that I'm going to this, but I'm going to do it, like, because I feel like whatever I feel. But then eventually you're going to be, and this is the same thing, with the shows at night, I think, where it's just like, I don't like that I'm doing this, but this is what I want. I don't know what else to do right now. So I'm just going to do this because this was my go-to. I don't like that I'm doing it. But do I not like that I'm doing it because of society? Because I'm embarrassed by it? Or because I really like that I'm doing it? Or I'm lying to myself about not liking that I'm doing it, or it sounds better to not like that I'm doing it, right? Like what's the truth about what I'm experiencing? And as you do that, you find that emptiness, you find that openness, you find that, yeah, you can watch this, or you can turn it off, or you can sit and look out the window, or you can sit up all night and drink coffee and whatever. It doesn't really matter what you do, but what you do is structure exposing the value of who you are. And then you are going to take this and learn and grow and become who you're going to become. You're being guided. And you're being guided through this entire experience. And some things are uncomfortable. Some things you like. Some things you don't like. Some things are comfortable and you don't like. Some things are uncomfortable and you do like that you do them. You like that. You go to bed without watching a show. Well, that's not happening right now, so you're going to do it until you don't. So what? That's okay. You've done it before. You'll do it again. There's no reason to judge it. And you don't have to, dig in and get your willpower unless you want to. If you want to do it that way, then do it that way. It really kind of, as we talk about this, it really kind of goes like, do what you do, whatever, and try not to judge yourself about it. Because everything you do is exposing the value of of who you are, and that is it's not going to be linear. It's not going to be like, you are going to lose weight 1 pound a week for the next 100 weeks, and that's not how it works.
When you said that about you'll do it until you don't, that has been the biggest help for me than anything I ever tried. And I'm even in talking to myself in a gentle manner, just loving myself. I have tried, talking about like food, I've tried diets, I have tried all these different things. But over the past few years, as I've been just on this healing journey, I'm taking better care of myself. And do I have moments like during the winter, fall, where I eat more or I watch more TV? Yes. But then it always, like you said, ebbs and flows, right? And I'm even losing weight now, and I'm not really trying.
Right.
I'm just,
and I had someone come on early, the first guest today, and he was like, I've reached a plateau. And I'm like, well, my belief is that it's not about you're losing weight. Do you want to? It's my belief that when you heal energetically, the weight will fall off, because you're hanging on to bullshit, and that's what excess weight is. It's just a waste, and you don't have to hang on to it. But when you hang on to things energetically, you hang on to weight.
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
energy work has
might,
changed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It might not only be weight, but it definitely could be.
Well, also, just pain. Pain in my hips at times. And I know that's like, I am moving more, but I've also noticed on certain days it's just gone. And I'm like, okay, was I holding on to anger or certain things? You start to recognize certain aspects of how my body's feeling.
Right.
And what was I holding on to today? Was I really angry? Was I really whatever? And energy work has changed my life. It's so cool.
Not good.
It is changing my life, yeah.
And changing the way we think, changing the way we are in the world, changing the way we interact with energy. And you dropped off, and if you're good, you don't have to come back up. But if you have anything else to add, you can come back up. Changing the energy of which you interact with the world around you changes the way you interact with yourself, because it's actually not the way you interact with yourself is the way that you experience your world. So it's so important to understand it's not the way it looks. It looks like the world is doing something and we react to it. But we have energy that then presents the world to us in a certain way. And when we can see that, like, I'm not a believer of, you can create the world you want and just think positively, like I'm a believer of heal, and the world that you happen to want will be created. But dictating the world you want is usually coming from a space of fear, usually coming from a space of, I don't want to experience pain. I don't want to experience lack. I don't want to experience this or that. Right. And so that's ego driven. That is identity driven. When you realize that there's nothing to want to experience, you get to experience everything. And I think that's a big benefit in our lives.
I just, that's so, oh yeah. I don't even know what to say to that. Sorry, I get up and I'm like, I don't know what to say to that.
I don't know what. I wanted to say something. I don't know, but it just I just wanted to be with you with that thought. Yeah. Right.
I've been in so many different spaces where I was always trying to figure things out and doing the thing that they were telling us to do, and it wasn't working because it was a formula. And, I do have, I was talking to a friend the other day, and I have a few friends who are very much into the positive mindset. And I'm like, it's nuanced. It's not, it can feel sometimes like a black and white conversation when you're saying, I'm feeling a certain way. And then they start, and I know Christian Brown calls this spiritual bypassing. It's like, well, you need to think positively. And it's like having this conversation where I'm like, but it's about healing first, because or just taking these steps of, it's hard to even discuss at times with people, because what I mean sounds differently to somebody else, how they're perceiving it, right? Mm-hmm. And how they're saying it, what they're thinking, I'm perceiving it differently. So
that's right.
Sometimes I think we're all trying to say the same thing, we're just hearing it differently.
Well, you may have heard me say what I say and what you hear have nothing to do with one another.
Yes. Wait.
What I say and what you hear have nothing to do with one another.
Yes. Got it.
So that means, like, when you're trying to tell somebody something. See, this is why Tao is so awesome. Because it really sort of, like, when you kind of get into it, you realize that you're having an experience and I'm having an experience. Mm-hmm. We are not having an experience together. I'm having an experience of talking and you're having an experience of talking. I'm having an experience of listening. You're having an experience of listening. Nothing to do with one another. My experience is solely happening for me, with me. Your experience is solely happening for you, with you. And they could never come together. So if I go out later today and I say, I had a conversation with Stephanie Ann and she said, that is not true. I had and the truth is, I had an experience in which I was having a conversation with somebody, and this is what I experienced. I experienced frustration, or I experienced this. She didn't frustrate me. She didn't teach me something. I learned something. She didn't do anything because I did this. I was the only one in this experience. You, in my life, don't exist. Like, I mean, you exist in the world having your own experience, but you don't exist in my life. The only thing that exists in my life is the experience I have of you.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can realize that, when we realize that I'm only having experiences of other people, they're not teaching me or doing anything. I'm having an experience right now in which I'm connected. And that's all that it is.
Connected to Tao, right?
Connected to the only thing there is to connect to. I call it Tao.
Is that... I guess I'm still trying to understand Tao.
You'll never...
You'll never understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
you're already on the wrong path.
It's like we're all connected to each other, and we're all connected with Tao, which
through
some
Tao.
call God. Oh, through Tao.
Yeah, through Tao. Yeah. So God, and we can talk about it in terms of God, but, man, God's got so much wrapped up, right? God's got this ego. God's got this huge ego, the God that we know of, the triune sort of, Christian Catholic thing, there's so much ego behind that God. Like there's an identity and there's a personality and he's got an identity, right? Tao doesn't have identity.
Is it kind of like saying universe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a good way of saying it. But the universe is structure, right? So we're talking about emptiness has value. The universe is structure. There is an edge to the universe, right? The end of the universe, right? So Tao exists beyond that. But the edge of the universe is filled with Tao. Like everything inside of the edge of the universe so the edge of the universe is masculine and everything inside of it is feminine. And then a planet in the universe or a galaxy is masculine and everything inside the galaxy is all that space is feminine. And then a planet is masculine, but then on the surface of the planet, that's a space to create. That's feminine. And then the beings on the planet, their bodies are masculine. Their soul is feminine. So like there's all of this kind of like Russian doll scenario of like bigger, smaller, until you get to the one thing on the end, and that is nothing. So it's interesting because when you get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, you keep finding things. But when you get bigger and bigger and bigger, eventually it turns into nothing.
Do you ever have people challenge you on the masculine, feminine energy talk? Like they get upset about it?
People misunderstand it. I don't have people challenging me on it personally.
Because I was sharing with a friend. I heard you the other day, and you were talking about like the feminine energy is giving birth, and the masculine energy is taking action. Mm-hmm. And my friend started getting really irritated, I guess, or I don't know. She goes, "That's women take action too." And I was like, "No, it's not women and men. It's the energies, the law of gender." And no? Oh.
I using the word gender is especially right now. It's really divisive, and I would avoid it. I wouldn't talk about energy in terms of gender. I would talk about it. I would talk about masculine and feminine as structure. And see, because women aren't feminine, they just happen to have vaginas.
I think that's where people get confused when they hear, or I used to as well. Like I used to, because people will take, well, that's what women are and that's what men are. But it's like, no, the masculine, feminine energy.
Yeah,
but people will perceive that as,
no.
I don't, well, I mentioned the law of gender to her because it's one of the 12 laws of the universe. And maybe that's what, I don't know. It went really weird. And then I just stopped talking because I realized, okay. And then I said, okay. And I gave up.
So here, let's backtrack this really quick. And if you want to just be like, look, I don't want to talk about this, and you can just let me know. But what I would say is your friend didn't do something. Let's start there. You had the experience of being challenged for your beliefs.
Mm.
Is that a theme in your life?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's stop being a victim of that which is happening in the manifestation and start taking responsibility for our experience. You have a frame of reference of the world in which your beliefs are challenged and that you're not right. You're still holding on to some of that somewhere in your system because you're still calling these experiences.
What did I say that like if I didn't, how would I frame that differently? Because I don't really know what I'm doing.
You're misinterpreting. Okay, you had an experience that is teaching you about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All this experience is telling you is that you still like this experience. What I'm seeing in this experience is that you are being challenged for something that you believe, and it shut you down. From what I recall, that's something that you have experienced before.
Yes. And we were taught to fight for our beliefs, and that always scared me because I wasn't good at that.
Right. And
then if I don't, then I yeah.
So there's just some, I'm not saying that there's an answer, right? There's no answer, but there is awareness. You are not a victim of what she did. You are a student in the lesson of your life. This experience is something that you can learn from.
Well,
you can learn about yourself.
I was getting mad that she was mad and not agreeing with me.
Right. And so that's a trigger. And that trigger is going to draw you to understand yourself better.
Mm-hmm.
And as you observe, okay, well, where are these things coming from? And, like, this is my bread and butter, right? This is what I do. But I mean, this is like piecing these things together and being like, okay, this isn't you being a victim to her. This is you having an experience. She had an experience that was totally opposite of yours. It doesn't have anything to do with you. She had an experience that, if I were to make it up, I would be like, someone is trying to make me believe something, and that is going to cause me to turn on people that I care about or whatever, right? Who knows what her experience was? Just like she doesn't know that your experience has to do with someone trying to challenge your beliefs. She doesn't know that. All she knows is where she's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're the victim of her. She's the victim of you. And you both go away and learn nothing until one or both of you say, wait a minute, you don't exist. I exist in my life. And this is an experience for me, by me, about me. So what am I experiencing? I'm experiencing somebody trying to the details don't matter. What matters is the overarching thing that put your blinders on and knotted your stomach. And that's you're being challenged and you don't want to fight for it. And that's fine. You don't have to fight for it. But you may have to speak up at some point. It may, depending on where the pain is, was it in your gut? Was it in your throat? Was it in your chest? Like all of those sorts of things can guide you to knowing yourself better. Because again, like we spoke earlier, you and she did not have the same experience. You had one that told you about yourself. She had one that told her about herself.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I want it. That's more like also just observing.
Yeah, that's all this is.
You're observing the thing instead of
stop being caught up by it. It's just the manifestation is stupid. It's just fooling you into thinking that this is like you're the victim of some shit. You're carrying some shit and you're putting it out in the world and you don't even know it. And this is what's trying to tell you who you are. This is the emptiness of all of it. It's just like, this is who you are. Like all of this stuff that you experience is only there to expose the value of emptiness. That's number 11. The value of who you are. Who are you? And
so that was a good number I picked.
Yes.
That's why it came to me today.
It all comes back to Tao, dear. But no, like this is what you sit with. You know, you're not a victim of the world. The world is doing what it does, and it is perfectly within its right to do it because it needs to know what it is, who it is, why it's here. That's what you're doing.
That's really good because I do still go, oh, the world's doing this, and I'm, we're victims of this, and that's not fair, and it's like, it causes so much anxiety and but for what, right?
Right.
Like you're saying, it does what it does. People do what they do.
And you know what? If the world warms up and everybody dies, that's going to be what it is. And so if it's global warming that's ticking you off, you'd be like, well, why is it pissing me off? Because it's like, if this is the run of the earth, that's the run of the earth. That's okay. Like, what is making me so upset about it? What is my personal experience? That's going to tell you more about yourself, and it's going to help you heal, not feel anxious, and then be more effective in inspiring others.
That's so good. Thanks, Martin John.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Coming. You too. Happy New Year, by the way. It's so good. Life is so good. It is always here for us to learn. And it unfolds, right? Every experience we have is telling us about who we are, showing us about how we see the world, how we see ourselves. And as that unfolds, and as we live with all of that, we really get to have these experiences and learn about ourselves. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're interested in working with me or talking with me further, you can check out my website. I have links in my profile. There's a link tree and my website, all of those things. Otherwise, I'll be here tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., do another Tao of the day. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.